when you're in Israel, people there are very, I'm not a sociologist, so I would find it very hard to explain. It would be very interesting to hear someone try to explain this, but for some reason, the Israeli population, the Jewish Israeli population, is very much has a lot of hatred towards these people, although by all accounts, I would say that they're actually very non-violent. If instead of Palestinians, we had as neighbors Irish people, and we had to deal with the IRA, I think Israel would have a much rougher time. Relatively, there's so little violence coming from the Palestinians, and such terrible violence coming from Israel. It's easy to say that Palestinians are targeting civilian Israelis, when you as the Israeli Air Force you have huge 1-ton bombs, and you can drop that bomb into a crowded neighborhood. Say you were targeting this and that person, and at the same time you also kill 20 other people, and that's how is that called? Collateral damage. And then you're okay because you targeted that one person. Whereas at the same time, Israel has to remember that it does have military bases right smack in the middle of Tel Aviv, and these are also, by Israel standards, would be legitimate military targets. So if you go into that game, you might end up being the loser. So it's a very dangerous road.
Dov Khenin, you're a member of the left-wing Hadash party, the Jewish Arab party in the Israeli Knesset in the parliament, known as the Democratic Front for Peace and Equality. Can you explain the Israeli government's position on the press? The Foreign Press Association filing the challenge on behalf of 400 reporters barred from the Gaza Strip, saying an unprecedented restriction of press freedom, the world's media unable to accurately report on events inside Gaza at this critical time here in the United States. Reuters, the New York Times, BBC, and other publications also have complained to the Israeli Prime Minister. Why are journalists not allowed in Gaza?
Well, I think that journalists are not allowed into Gaza in order to not make it possible for people around the world to see whatever is happening in Gaza right now. The situation in Gaza is terrible. That people are doing surgery without, any tools, without anything needed to take care of medically of people wounded. The situation there is really terrible. The most, the saddest thing of all is, that Israeli population also suffers, because in Israel, a lot of people in the southern part of Israel are now under the threat of the missiles and the rockets fired from Gaza. It is only a proof that this war is a disaster. It is, of course, first of all, disaster for the Palestinians in Gaza, but it is also a disaster for the Israelis themselves. The only option is to stop this war and to go on the opposite direction.
And what would that be? What would that look like, Dov Khenin?
The first thing to do right now is to decide on immediate and total ceasefire. Now, such ceasefire should include not only the stop of bombing and missile rockets. It should include also a lifting on the blockade on Gaza, because it is impossible to continue the situation existing before the war, when 1.5 million Palestinians were, in impossible conditions under a blockade. And another thing that should be agreed immediately is an agreement on the release of prisoners, both Palestinian prisoners and Gilad Shalit, bringing him back to his family. Such an agreement is also possible. Now, if we stop the war and move forward into a total and real ceasefire and lifting the blockade on Gaza, it can create the precondition for the restart of peace process between Israelis and Palestinians. Such a peace process is very, very important because if Israelis and Palestinians will not have the horizon of hope, and the horizon of hope can be achieved only with the vision of the establishment of an independent Palestinian state alongside Israel. If such a vision of hope will not be open to the Israelis and Palestinians, things will continue to deteriorate, and the extremists will gain more and more political strength.
I want to thank you both for being with us. Dov Khenin, member of the Hadash party, Jewish Arab party, known as the Democratic Front for Peace and Equality, speaking to us from inside Israel, and Jonathan Benartzi, Israeli conscientious objector, first to be tried by an Israeli military tribunal, served in jail for over a year, now at Brown University, a graduate student and nephew of the opposition leader running for prime minister in February, Benjamin Netanyahu. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. Back in a minute.